Earlier today, Donald Trump signed an executive order that retroactively lowers tariffs on a number of different agricultural products, including beef, tomatoes, coffee, and bananas. And he did that amid rising concerns about the cost of these products. The idea being that he's gonna get rid of the tariffs and the prices will go down. But Cenk, I'm very confused about that strategy because it is the foreign countries that pay those tariffs. So why would removing the tariffs lower the price of the goods? I don't get it.
Yeah, that does seem to be a contradiction from what he was saying before. But guys, the main story here is total collapse of Trump's tariff strategy. This is a surrender. He surrendered just now, right before we came on air. And there's a second giant problem with that policy, not just higher prices. I'm gonna tell you about that in a minute. And also part of the reason why he surrendered.
Yeah, and it's possible that if he does truly believe that the Supreme Court is going to strike down these tariffs, why wait and let the Supreme Court kill it? Why don't you do it and try to get some positive PR out of it along the way? I don't know, that may be beyond him strategically, but it makes some sense to me. Now, there are these reciprocal tariffs. It's one of the areas of his tariff policy. There are many. That's sort of where these had been receiving their 10 to 50% price increases from. The order doesn't exempt the goods entirely from tariffs, though, the new order. So while some of the tariff is gonna be removed from these particular agricultural products, that doesn't mean that they're not receiving a tariff. So for instance, Mexico, which produces a number of tomatoes that get sent to the United States, they're still gonna be tariffed at 17%. So it's not taking it down to nothing, and it's not all products. In fact, this is mostly limited to agricultural goods. There had been a separate executive order earlier this week having to do specifically with, I believe, Sweden, but it's not like all of the tariffs are gone. Even in this area, there are still gonna be tariffs, they're just going to be lower. And that is at least something, though. We also, by the way, had an earlier executive order in September, maybe that was the precursor to this. It had directed Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and the US Trade Representative to decide on exemptions for more than 1,000 product categories, including metals and minerals, antibiotics, plain parts, and foreign agricultural products, including coffee, pineapples, avocados, and vanilla beans as well. And so they've been taking some steps in this direction. Again, based on what he has said about tariffs, doesn't make sense to do this at all, since they shouldn't raise the price for you. But obviously, as we've been telling you from the very beginning, before the tariffs even happened, that isn't actually true. He was lying to you, and he seems to be admitting that in this case. But interestingly, and maybe this gets to your point about the collapse of the entire tariff scheme, he'd been using some of these tariffs as attempted economic leverage to get a number of countries, dozens and dozens and dozens of countries, to do new trade deals with him. Again, remember, he said he was gonna get 90 trade deals in 90 days. He didn't get anything like that. He still needs a lot of trade deals, and this was one of the tools he was using to get it. If he's now willingly surrendering that, he's losing that leverage and perhaps giving up on getting those new trade deals at all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's why I say surrender, because the people who made the trade deals with him, including all the way up to this week, have got to be totally regretting it now, because the people who didn't make the trade deals just got rewarded. They didn't have to give up anything in return, and the tariffs were reduced. So now that's devastating for his tariff policy, because if he reintroduces it, they're gonna say, oh, we're just gonna wait him out. Remember how he folded last time? He'll fold this time. And anyone who wants to do a deal with him will think, remember when we made a deal with him last time when we got burned?
Yeah.
Like we thought we were being the good guys and we were stepping up first and doing a deal with him, and we gave up a bunch of things in return. And then the guys who didn't give up anything in return wound up getting the same thing we did. So that's it. There goes his tariff policy.
Yeah.
And so why is he doing that and giving up on a thing that is his own personal agenda? This is the one thing he believes in, he brought to the table, right? Like none of his advisors, this is not a donor thing. This is a very, very rare thing where a politician actually has an idea. God help us, okay? And he did it like, again, tariffs can work. It just, he did it in a maniacal, chaotic way, way overcharging on the tariffs. It was comical level, way too broad, not targeted, etc. So he blew it up. If you like tariffs, targeted tariffs, now you're screwed, because this is gonna be such a nightmare. Nobody's ever gonna wanna go back to tariffs, right? So Why did he do it? One, higher prices, obviously. And he tried to say, hey, I don't want anybody talking about affordability. And now he's beginning to realize he doesn't have the same bullying power that he had before. Before, if he said to Republicans, that's it, I don't want to talk about affordability, you're never gonna hear it on Fox News again, you're not gonna hear it on any media, you're not gonna hear any Republican politicians talking about it. But now that's not happening. People on right-wing media online are still talking about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, no, you're wrong. It is a problem. Yeah. And why? You can't avoid it. You can't lie your way out of the economy and prices because people see it with their own eyes.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some folks to believe that folks were eating cats and dogs in Ohio because you're not in Ohio and you didn't see it with your own eyes, right? But you're not gonna get them to believe that the price of food is down when it's up, because they just bought it, right? So, but there's a second giant problem here, which is that our allies had started to reroute trade around us. So Latin America and Europe started making a lot more deals with China and other Asian countries because they're like, well, we got to deal with this giant tariff in America, so why don't we sell our goods in other places? And they started making trade alliances. And so people that are in the know in the government and among the markets, et cetera, we're like, whoa, this is really dangerous. Now we're in bad territory here because if they reroute them, they're not gonna bring it back. That could last 10, 20 years, right? So the horse is almost out of the barn. This is Trump kind of grabbing his tail at the end and getting dragged along like, don't talk about affordability.
Right? And that's kind of, I think, the same, you talked about two different things that have changed now. It's kind of the same problem. He's not as strong as he thinks he is. In terms of ability to wield the American economy as a blunt force weapon against our enemies and our allies, doesn't work that way. The world's more complex. It's more complex than your tiny little pea brain can understand. And you don't have the control over MAGA brains that you thought you did. So that includes some specific Republicans like Marjorie Greene and others, but honestly, I don't even think it really starts there. I think the reason they're braver now than they were is you don't have that control over regular people for a lot of the reasons that you broke down. You can keep telling people that gas is $2 a gallon. You could say that over and over again. They can see the price. Remember, they pump their own gas. Trump, you don't. You haven't in decades, but they actually have to do that. And so I said earlier in the show that I went on Truth Social and I saw something that gave me a little bit of hope. Donald Trump had his tweet about the affordability is a con job, it's all con, everything's down, energy's down. And I went into the replies, which is normally, it makes Twitter look reasonable, the Truth Social replies. It's just memes and all that stuff, and it's just nonsense and conspiracy theories. Almost all of the top replies were people saying, President Trump, it's not a con job. President Trump, I love you, I love MAGA, whatever, but like prices are higher, gas isn't lower. They all saw his lie and saw reality, and for once they acknowledged reality, which they have been so loath to do for a decade now. And maybe it's just in this area that he's losing that power, but maybe not. This feels like with the election results, with Epstein, this feels like the beginning of the process that makes him a lame duck. That's what it feels like to me. If he can't control the base, if he can't control our allies and our enemies, and if he can't even control Republicans in Congress anymore, then I don't know. I feel like his power is actually slipping.
Well, not only that, John, but he just gave up on his signature economic policy. So it doesn't get any more power slipping away than that. To your point about gas prices, this isn't being talked about enough, including on this show. The other day he was talking and he's like, I don't know why we don't have voter ID. You go to the gas station, you need ID. You go to the grocery store, you need ID. No, you don't. That brother hasn't pumped gas in maybe literally ever, but 70s? Certainly not in like 40 years. He hasn't gone to the grocery store. He doesn't know anything. He's so elite, right? Pretending to be a populist. And he's like, what do the regular people do? You have to show your driver's license to the gas man, right?
What could a banana cost, $10?
And then lastly, so he didn't expect the prices would go up when he put like 109% tariff, a 39%, a 49% tariff. How could you not expect that? How are you surprised by that? Oh my God, prices are up. Oh my God, people hate it when that was the #1 issue I ran on. Oh my God, we lost every election in this cycle because people can't afford things. Golly gee, I wish somebody would have told me that putting 49% extra on a product cost would raise costs, prices. Of course it's gonna raise prices. Literally everyone but Trump knew that.
Yeah.
And so this is reality catching up with him. And it's tough.
Well, we'll see if this saves him in the midterms.
Yeah, well, he is at least backpedaling.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.